probably 10:15, we got dispatched for the fire department. And so then I'm texting her, telling her that we just got dispatched, and she said, I don't want you to come, stay home. Too many shots, I don't want you to come. And I said, I'm coming, it doesn't matter what you say, I'm gonna find a way there. And I called her best friend Lori, who is in the ladies auxiliary. Lori came and picked me up and brought me to the firehouse. And when we got to the firehouse, I put my gear on and I went into autopilot. It was, all the emotions were out the door.
Your father actually asked you, because you're EMT.
I'm EMT also, yes.
Right, and so your father said, are you prepared for this?
Yeah, I looked at him and I said, where do you want me to go? And he said, are you okay? And I said, I'm fine, what do you want me to do? And he said, go out back and see what help they need with the triage. So that's when I walked back to the school.
When did it dawn on you how bad it was?
Probably 20 minutes after I'd been there. And they weren't bringing, they had taken 4 patients to the hospital, and that was it. They weren't bringing any more patients out.
All the students had closed their eyes, and obviously you can't walk with your eyes closed. And when my sister opened her eyes, she just saw a lot of police, a lot of troopers with guns, but she did not see anything.
How old is your sister?
She's 9.
Okay, what can you tell us about what's going on at that firehouse right now?
I'm with you right now.
All right.
This is as far as we can go. Obviously, they've got the yellow tape set up right here. Behind the camera there, Kevin Flommer is taking you along as you see one of the injured people. I didn't get a look at the kind of injuries we're talking about here, but that is one of the few casualties we've seen.
The staging area for the emergency services and victims of the Sandy Hook shooting was set up at the local firehouse, which is located less than half a kilometer away from the school. By reviewing aerial footage and images of the scene, we can see that there were hardly any emergency vehicles located at the school itself. Instead, the ambulances and emergency services, including the media, were assembled at the firehouse on Riverside Road. What makes this even more curious is that if we take a closer look at the staging area at the firehouse, we can clearly see that all of the necessary emergency vehicles were boxed in and unable to leave the staging area. This would mean that any injured parties, survivors, or victims would need to be taken out of the school all the way to the firehouse. If someone suffered a serious life-threatening injury, there is a high possibility that they could die during the time it would take to transport them to the nearest ambulance or medical team.
Holy traffic jam!
Scanning the scene of the incident, we observed that Dickinson Drive, the road between the firehouse and Sandy Hook School, is completely blocked off. Trapped from going either forward or backward, the lone ambulance on Dickinson is practically useless, and Maureen Will, who just so happens to live directly across the street from the firehouse, was the Newtown Director of Emergency Communications and was at the helm during the event. In a shocking admission, Miss Will admits gridlock was an issue, stating that surrounding law enforcement agencies self-deployed, resulting in gridlock on Riverside Road.
HQ 3 HQ.
3.
Okay, 3, I've been advised if you can rotate the selectmen down at the scene, at the command post.
Roger.
That's 3 HQ.
3 HQ.
Where's the command post?
Sandy Hook Fire.
move on a little bit more so other agencies can go there, or what?
I am just arriving, so I will advise. I have to be briefed.
It's really jammed up in there, and we got to keep room for the ambulances to get out. I don't know if you can.
Can I get through to the command post?
I doubt it. That van just went down there.
All right, is there a spot for me over here?
You want to just pull up maybe behind the tanker or something?
Very good.
At the school, there is no evidence of a chaotic scene. There is a fire truck that was granted access, but curiously, there are no ambulances. Now note, it has been established through matching the highly questionable police report and the police and fire department scanner feeds with the aerial feed that we arrived at a time frame between 10:36 and 11 a.m. With our knowledge of the official timeline, the footage had to take place sometime between 10:07 and 11:07 a.m. because this is the time that Pisani was located outside. To narrow this time frame down further, let's take a look at the official report. 10:33 a.m. was the last documented time when children were said to be evacuated from the school. At this point, a Newtown youth officer by the name of Gladys Pisani, yes, Gladys Pisani, who shares the same last name as the alleged injured woman, escorts children to the firehouse. And we of course do not see this in the footage. This means that if the official report is not flawed, which is a big if, then the earliest time the footage would start would be around 10:38 a.m. because it would take several minutes for the children to walk to the firehouse from the school. And by knocking off the several minutes it would take to secure the injured lady in a gurney, the latest would be 11 a.m. So the video had to take place sometime between 10:38 a.m. and 11 a.m. That is if the official report and the police and fire department scanner feeds are correct. Being that 10:33 was the last documented evacuation, this 10:38 to 11 a.m. time frame is perfect for seeing the 450 plus children at the firehouse, minus potential absentees, and of course the 20 alleged victims. However, we fail to see even 10 children who would fall in the age range of being a student at Shady Hook School. We instead see an empty triage mat at the school and a bunch of adults wandering around without their child at the firehouse.
We're at Riverside Drive, about 300 yards from the elementary school here, where people are using this road to access the area to pick up their children. This mother here already has a couple of her children and is looking for some other missing youngsters that she wants to have in her custody to get out of the area. You see, people are very worried as they come down the road here. The school is just up the road and to the left. We've been allowed to sit up in this area here inside the yellow tape, but are being kept away from the school itself. Some folks are coming back after picking up their kids. They were notified by text message. Sir, can I talk to you a second here? We're Channel 2 in New York. How did you find out about this terrible tragedy?
Okay. My daughter's in 3rd grade. We got an automated call from the town that there had been a shooting.
Sure.
Good morning. This message is from the superintendent of the Newtown Public Schools. Due to reports of a shooting, as yet unconfirmed, the district is taking preventative measures by putting all schools in lockdown until we ensure safety of all students and staff. Thank you.
But nothing about where the shooting was and that the schools were on lockdown.
So you're assuming probably it's the high school at first, right? And then,
of course, and my son's at the high school. I text him.
Yeah.
He said everything's fine here. And then I got another text from CBS that it was on Dickinson, and that's her school. So I drove right here. I saw the panic.
Yeah.
And I talked to some of the moms, and they said that the principal had been shot.
Wow, my goodness.
And some children came out bloody. I don't know if they've been shot.
And this is a frantic time. This is every parent's worst.
Oh, my God, especially here in Sandy Hook.
Yeah. That's sweet, man. So talk to your daughter?
Yes.
What's your name, sweetheart?
Sophia. There's a news conference right over there.
Thank you, ma'am. Thank you very much. Okay, I appreciate it. What did you see or hear anything? Did you know anything was wrong?
What happened in your class?
What happened in your class?
Well, we were at morning meeting, and then we heard shooting, and then we went to the corner. And then
The teacher told me that she locked the door.
She locked the door? And were you afraid? Yeah. But how long before you saw your parents? Did they tell you your parents were going to come get you?
No, I think.
Okay, well, this is a little unsettling, I guess, for a youngster. She's been on TV, and thank you so much. You want to go home and enjoy the rest of your day. But you want to go home and enjoy the rest of your day. But you want to go home and enjoy the rest of your day. This is a scary time for all the folks here. There is a briefing going on up the road, as that lady just said just a few moments ago. You see some folks coming back, very worried faces here. They had no idea what was happening. They got the text message. They heard the word shooting from the school district, but they didn't know where it had taken place. And then when they called the elementary school, there was no answer, and that is terrifying. Right now, what we can tell you is there is a very orderly way in which the children are being picked up. The cars for the parents are being parked on the road behind us, perpendicular behind our truck here, and they are walking in to retrieve their children. I see these folks over here. This lady is loading up. I'll see if she wants to speak with us at all about what this process has been like. Ma'am? Lou Young from Channel 2. Okay, I can tell she's a little upset. She doesn't really want to talk, but she has a number of children she has been picking up. She had two youngsters with her earlier. She was on a cell phone trying to find out where the other children were. Obviously, a lot of parents not able to get here. But you can see this road here running up to the school is like a refugee highway. You see people unloading on their cars, walking up, and then walking back with their children in their hands. Some of the children very upset, others oblivious as children might be from time to time. But that's a situation here. We did hear that the principal has been injured or possibly killed. We have not confirmed that. That's what the parents are telling us as they come out. And again, this happened just about 2 hours ago here in Newtown. Where we are physically is on the eastern side of Fairfield County. This is still a part of Connecticut that considers itself more New York than New England. We're close to the Housatonic River, north of Bridgeport, and east of Danbury, Connecticut. It is part of our suburbs, and these people are very, very traumatized by the situation here today. A shooting at Sandy Hook Elementary School in this very picturesque area. We'll continue to work the area here and see if we can get a little closer to the scene and bring you an update in a little bit.
Lou Young, very quickly, before you go, two things. We understand that if it was a teacher or the principal, our reports are saying that he was shot in the foot. It does not appear to be life-threatening, which is good news. But also...
All right, now the helicopter's pulling out. See the line of people there? See the line of people? All right, we're coming up to the front. Look how they're coming back in. They're taking that turn. Watch them take the turn. Up. And they're coming right back into the building.
What you want? What you want? Come on. What you want? Come on. Come on.
Now take a look at the man in the gray sweatshirt. His name is Joseph Wasik, and his daughter Alexis gave several interviews to the media throughout the day.
Are you okay right now?
Yeah.
Are you sure?
Uh-huh.
All right, how excited were you to see Dad?
Very excited.
Dad, you look more nervous than her, I gotta
Yes,
tell
I was. It was shocking. I got the call at work this morning, and I can't believe a small town like this would ever have anything like this happen. And to be in an elementary school, that's unheard of.
Pre-K through 4?
Yes.
And you said there were about 600 kids in there?
Yes. Roughly around 600.
What was going through your mind? I mean, you immediately think of your child.
Yes, I was pretty shaken up. Didn't know, you know, who or what happened. I knew there were shooters in the building or a shooter. Just worried about who else is left in the building at this time.
Mom, what do you think about this scene here in Newtown?
It doesn't even seem real.
He enters the video at around 50 seconds in when he exits the firehouse door and then walks around.
Did you have any trouble finding Alexis?
Yeah, I didn't have too much. I was running, obviously, to the school. Somebody told me that the kids were evacuated. Most of the kids were evacuated into the local firehouse here. Inside the firehouse, it was really obviously tough to find because it was packed.
He is seen again going back inside the firehouse at about 4 minutes and 10 seconds into the video. And then at the end of the video, he is seen exiting the building once again at around 10:21 into the video. Of course, without a child.
You know, we're taking it day by day, minute by minute. It's what both our son and our daughter saw is incomprehensible. We're trying to make sense of a senseless act. We speak to him. We make sure we understand what he's feeling. We try to explain things that can't be explained.
Lynn and Joe and little Alexis, I see there in front of you. Does Alexis want to talk about it? And if so, what are you telling her?
As far as talking, we're breaking it to her slowly. We're not trying to pry too much. If she's forthcoming and telling us stuff, we're allowing it. You know, we're letting her come out slowly. We're not prying into her, you know, what happened. We don't want to do that.
If you pay close attention to the individual people in the footage, you will notice the same awkward behavior of walking in and out of the firehouse doors, of course without a child. Also take note that if we believe the official story, Nurse Sally Cox and Secretary Barbara Halstead hid in a closet in the exact same area where the state police were conducting the investigation until 1:15 p.m. for approximately 4 hours. So why is this important? It's important because this proves that not everyone was accounted for at the time of the aerial footage. Yet we see blocked ambulances, gridlock, and zero sense of urgency. Emphasizing the lack of urgency even more, let's take a look at this police dashcam video. At 12:21 p.m., just under an hour prior to Sally Cox and Barbara Halstead coming out of the closet, no pun intended of course, these officers decided it was a good idea to bust out the snacks, chips, bananas, and bottled water during a mass shooting investigation. Mind you, deceased innocent little first graders are allegedly just feet away from the vehicle.
At sunset, a woman checked on her friend's missing child and relayed the awful news.
They just told us that everybody that's missing, that's presumed missing, is in the school and they're dead. The two that they transported to the hospital are now dead as well.
Fire in Sandy Hook Elementary School in Newtown, killing 26 people, 20 of them children.
Report that the teacher shot us right out of the building past the gym, which would be rear shooting.
The next shot takes place after a cut and depicts a closer zoomed shot of a group under a canopy of trees. And although I can make out some of the figures, none appear to be in custody or even in secure positions such as on their stomach or on their knees.
Holy fast escape!
As many as 3 to 4 state troopers ran into this small backyard shed, which looks to be 4 feet deep.
Holy Houdini!
Guy out of the woods. I saw him walk a guy out earlier with handcuffs. He walked by us and said he didn't do it. They did walk a guy out of the woods. I saw him walk a guy out earlier with handcuffs. He walked by us and said he didn't do it. It was a grown man. A grown man, yeah. He's sitting in the front of the police car over there now. So, I mean,
he didn't have a gun?
I didn't see any gun. Just had him handcuffed by us. And he walked by us and looked into parents' eyes and said, I didn't do it.
How was he dressed?
Camo pants with a dark jacket. They did walk a guy out of the woods. I saw him walk a guy out earlier with handcuffs. He walked by us and said he didn't do it. It was a grown man. A grown man, yeah. He's sitting in the front of the police car over there now. So, I mean...
He didn't have a gun?
No, I didn't see any gun. Just had him handcuffed. And he walked by us and looked into parents' eyes and said, I didn't do it.
How was he dressed?
Camo pants with a dark jacket. They did walk a guy out of the woods. I saw him walk a guy out earlier with handcuffs. He walked by us and said he didn't do it.
Holy double identity!
Camo pants with a dark jacket.
Then a man dressed in green and beige army clothes came into her classroom.
He stated that he was wearing a green army-style hat with straps, a green shirt and camouflage pants.
Censored said the shooter was dressed in army clothes.
When a man walked in, he was wearing a brown or camo shirt, brown pants. Described the shooter as a white guy with a heavy winter-like brown jacket, and a green shirt underneath the jacket. Censored stated that he believed the man was wearing army green kind of pants.
Camo pants with a dark jacket.
We know that, as we mentioned, one shooter is confirmed dead. They do believe there may have been a second shooter. They say they have cleared the school, so I'm imagining that search may go beyond, well beyond the school district, looking for a potential person at large.
Well, exactly, and perhaps the deceased shooter will be the lead as to who the second person is, if in fact there is a second person.
They did walk a guy out of the woods. I saw him walk a guy out earlier with handcuffs. He walked by us and said he didn't do it.
He didn't have a gun?
No, I didn't see any gun. Just had him handcuffed. And he walked by us and looked into parents' eyes and said, I didn't do it.
How was he dressed?
Camo pants with a dark jacket.
The footage you're seeing is from the day of the shooting, showing local police officers as they chase the armed, off-duty SWAT police officer into the woods. This was reported by the Newton Bee online news site. A Sandy Hook resident named Roy Lowe was on the scene to witness the cops apprehend this individual.
I saw him walk a guy out earlier with handcuffs. He walked by us and said he didn't do it.
It was a grown man.
A grown man, yeah. He's sitting in the front of the police car over there now. So, I mean...
He didn't have a gun?
No, I didn't see any gun. Just had him handcuffed. And he walked by us and looked into parents' eyes and said, I didn't do it.
How was he dressed?
Camo pants with a dark jacket.
Hello? Hello? Hi, sir. I'm Brendan Hunt with WBAI Radio. I was just wondering, we're in the neighborhood talking to some of the residents about how they feel about the demolition of the school and everything. And we were just wondering if you wanted to maybe mention...
I got no comment.
Yeah. Okay.
if you don't mind, I know this is like a very touchy subject and everything, but I appreciate talking to us. Just want to ask just one other question, if I could. They said that saw somebody without pants being taken to the woods. Me? Yeah. Yeah, I'm not talking to anybody. Okay. The other guy got the FBI at his house. I don't need any of that. Okay. I'm sorry, sir. Yeah, I hear you. I really appreciate you. Yeah, I don't know nothing. You got it, sir. I mean, everybody knows what happened that day, so. Yeah. Okay. I really appreciate your info with that. Thank you.
We're now getting our first live pictures from the scene of the shooting in a small town called Newton in Connecticut. It's apparently an affluent neighborhood. It's a suburban neighborhood. Not a neighborhood noted for violence or criminal behavior, but there's been some kind of a shooting in a grade school that apparently started in the front offices. Some number of adults have been injured. We have no reports of anyone killed. We hear reports that the kids have been traumatized. A couple were in fact blood splattered, but we have not heard any reports about children being victims either.
No, but some reports, and of course a lot of this is unconfirmed because this is still a very much an unfolding story. Some reports that there were several individuals at least were seen, blood splattered on them, possibly some people injured. We can tell you that what we understand is two shooters that we understand at least one entered the office area, according to the latest reports of this school in Connecticut, and opened fire. We can also tell you that some of the reports we've been receiving indicate that at least one of those two shooters reportedly has been killed, and the other shooter, the latest reports were indicating, tried to flee the scene, but you can see part of the police teams on the scene there, and the SWAT team that continues to go and look at this scene, make sure no one else is around. Apparently another shooter has been arrested. So that is the latest news that we're receiving. Two shooters, one reportedly dead, another arrested, and some individuals, according to reports at least, with blood splatters, possibly injuries. We continue to watch it, and of course we'll bring you more details as they become available to us.
Confirmed to ABC News by state police there in Connecticut that two shooters were initially believed involved in the mass shooting. One of those shooters now dead. What's not been confirmed is whether or not that gunman took his own life or whether or not there was something that ensued after authorities began arriving at the scene. And now the big question will be, is there in fact that second shooter, and where is that second shooter? There have been searches that have unfolded throughout the afternoon.
When it comes to receiving the idea or the word that there may have been a second shooter, what is it that makes law enforcement believe that is a possibility?
Well, they have an individual in custody who they're talking to, and I am told they are looking at this person as possibly a second shooter. Now that changes the dynamic here a little bit, which goes from, if in fact this turns out to be confirmed, it goes from a lone gunman scenario where somebody has this this argument with society and wants to take revenge against the most defenseless people in society, to a team of individuals who have gotten together and conspired to do something like this. Now, it's not that we haven't seen that before. I mean, as Bob Orr reminded us, if you go back to Columbine and you see Dylan and Klebold, Harris and Klebold, Dylan Harris and Klebold, you know, we've seen where people get together and act together because they feel isolated or aggrieved together. And this may be one of those cases.
From Bridgeport, Connecticut, we have Mike Bellamy, news director for WICC 600. Mike, two shooters, is this the latest?
Yeah, the latest information is that two shooters, we have unconfirmed reports that one of the shooters is dead, and there is another individual who's being pulled out of a wooded area in handcuffs and being questioned by police. As you guys have been reporting, it happened in the 9 o'clock hour local time this morning, but the latest information is unconfirmed reports, two shooters, one of the shooters dead, and another shooter, possible shooter, in handcuffs being pulled out of a local wooded area.
Okay, what do we...
You saw that at least one person in custody, but you also believe that it's still very much an active scene, so we could be dealing with two or more people here.
I'm trying not to alarm people with that prospect, Keith, but I got to say that is something that we're hearing rumors about here. I can't verify that personally. All I know is what I've seen. What I've seen is one person in handcuffs, and yet more and more people heading up the road to the school.
Be advised, you should have multiple weapons, including long rifles and shotguns. Be advised, you should have multiple weapons, including long rifles and shotguns.
The last report was that there was one suspect that potentially was still at large, so I want them to set up an A in case we need to deploy him somewhere else.
Copy that. Go ahead. Copy that. Go ahead. What's your staff at that residence? We're evacuating the east side across the street, and it's securing. Are there more people inside? We do not just arrived on scene. We're evacuating each side.
Danbury's reporting a possible vehicle, a purple van, 2 occupants with a possible ski mask that may be involved in this incident. Exit 8 heading down Stony Hill towards the center. Also, we're getting reports of one of them may be wearing a nun outfit heading towards Danbury, Stony Hill. Purple van, unknown plate.
This comes from a couple of sources, that he was definitely dressed in black. But one of the sources is saying, only one, that he was dressed as a member of the clergy, that they thought he was a minister.
And you will know my name is the Lord when I lay my vengeance upon thee.
Homes around are evacuated. Perimeter's up.
I was last seen on Stony Hill by exit 8.
Loading right now. They're going to be transported momentarily.
People in the van, they had masks. One was dressed what appeared to be a nun's outfit.
All right. Confirm with Troop A what hospitals in our area that we could secure. I think you have that information wrong.
Yeah, Roger, Sergeant Stratton got off the phone with Pepper, and he said that they're using Griffin. He just confirmed that he was standing behind me. Is 1089 available to go on Route 8 and make a post, take a post for this purple van?
Workers of the world unite, same enemy, same fight. Workers of the world unite, same enemy, same fight.
First, I wanted to point out how dark the windows are. They're super tinted. So after a bit of doctoring, you can see the driver. Now, let's go ahead and compare that driver to that of James Alex Fields Jr. But as you can see, the man in the picture looks well fit, probably in his mid-30s, and looks military trained.
Barrels his car straight into a crowd of pedestrians before backing up and throwing the car into reverse. This shocking video taken from a drone shows the terrible moment as pedestrians scatter for their lives.
Go on Route 8 and make a post, take a post for this purple van.
Yeah, I'll continue to Griffin. I'll send 16 for that Griffin. We'll figure it out. And 1089 stay a post for whatever you.
As we have reviewed in the police audio recordings, several suspects were identified, 3 in which were detained, 1 who was killed, and the 2 suspects authorities were searching for in the purple van, 1 in which we know to be Adam Lanza, as he was reported as suspect down inside the building at approximately 9:50 a.m. We have seen few reports on the identities of the other 5 suspects. However, the Los Angeles Times reported that one of the parents was briefly taken into custody because he had ran around the school to look for his daughter. This individual has been identified as Chris Manfredonia, and claims he was at the Soto's class in making gingerbread houses. In another report by CNN, Diane Licata was supposed to attend the school to help build gingerbread houses in her son Aiden's class. She asked her husband Robert to go instead, and he had planned to be at the school for 2 p.m. to help with his son's project.
That's we call it later by the play 6. Water. That's the one you and I secured. Last name Manfredonia, first name Christopher. Last name Manfredonia, first name Christopher. Podcast 6. Last name Manfredonia, first name Christopher.
With the release of the final report, a number of aerial photos of the street and the Lanza home was provided. But it appears from what can be seen that the photos were taken within the span of only a few minutes. This white and blue house is said to be the Lanzas. This home next door is said to be the home of the Trent Acosta family. Upon examining the driveway at the Lanza home, there doesn't appear to be any obvious signs of activity having taken place. However, when we examine the Trent Acosta's driveway, there appears to be tire tracks from cars that drove indiscriminately over their lawn. Based on what the aerial photos depict, one could draw the conclusion that they were taken later in the day or afternoon. Here's a photo depicting the same general area, with the Lanza home on the left and the Trent Acosta home on the right. But oddly, the Lanza home doesn't appear to be the focus of attention. The home next door, on the other hand, can be seen to have at least 2 vehicles in the driveway and a couple of figures, which I assume are investigators. It doesn't appear that the home is being used as a staging area for convenience. The barricade created by the squad car and police tape is at the next door driveway. If I didn't know better, this early photo of the scene would give me the impression that the secondary crime scene was this greenhouse. What were they doing at the home next door?
Sam, why do you keep all those naked muscle men magazines in your office?
Suspects. Always looking for suspects.
Right. And you have a friend that works here at the Shady Hook school. What have you heard? Well, I just heard there's mixed reports going on right now, but I heard that the principal had been injured, and there's 2 shooters. That also that the children are now safe with their respective parents. Then we should point out not all children we can account for. Right now, I just had a word with the assistant fire chief who said they're still at the school right now going through and trying to account for each student to make sure that they know where everyone is.
More than one shooter, or?
Yeah, just one. No, just one.
Well, just one shooter. More than one shooter, or?
Yeah, just one. No.
The more one looks into the details surrounding the shooting, the stranger the story becomes. Just as in many other mass killings, we have been painted a detailed portrait of a lone gunman suffering psychological problems and lashing out at societies in ways similar to military operations. We have been told that Lanza was suffering from mental illness and is likely the cause of his attack on the school. Let's take a closer look into the life of Adam Lanza.
It's all true. The boogeyman is real, and you found him.
I met this 6-year-old child with this blank, pale, emotionless face and the blackest eyes, the devil's eyes.
Picture of him in the Newtown High School yearbook, just his name.
Adam Lanza's name is listed in the Newtown High School yearbook with no picture, and the name Jesse Lewis is right under it.
This is where he lived, an affluent street in a beautiful New England town.
Holy high rent district!
The street is cordoned off, but as we were filming, a neighbor drove up to us with this information.
He's always been a very disturbed kid. In 4th grade, my friend's daughter was in his class, and like they had to write something good about themselves, and he put, "I'm lonely, I'm angry, I hate everybody." Like he's always been disturbed.
So how do you know this man?
My friend that lives right near him.
Right.
I'm not telling you.
Down the road here?
Uh-huh.
Yeah.
My friend that lives right there told me everything yesterday. Christmas Eve, we had an argument about guns, and my friend goes, "I don't want you in the house," and she goes, "I love my guns, I love my guns." She said that, Mrs. Lanza. I love that, Nancy Lanza. I love guns, I love my guns.
And did you teach her son how to use the guns? Is that your understanding?
Went to the driving range.
See, it may not be perfect, but we got a system. There you go. Bang, bang. Now wait.
Peter Lanza's home is less than an hour away from where his son Adam opened fire at Shady Hook Elementary School. But a person who knows him says he hadn't had any communication with his son in about 2 years, about the time the elder Lanza remarried. Until then, Peter Lanza, an executive with GE,
was first reported to be an adjunct professor at Northeastern University in Boston. Later reports indicated that he was the vice president for taxes at General Electric, previously working as a senior tax manager at Ernst & Young. Ernst & Young being the reported place of employment for Adam's brother Ryan. In an email provided by the child advocate, attributed to Peter Lanza and addressed to Adam, it states, "Teaching postgraduate classes for the last 15 years makes me qualified to coach you." Later reports indicated that Peter Lanza was able to split time between his job at General Electric, teaching as an adjunct professor, and teaching classes at Fairfield University.
seen in this LinkedIn photo, had weekly visits with Adam, according to the same source who told us Lanza hadn't lived in the Newtown house since 2001. 8 years before his divorce with ex-wife Nancy was finalized. In the hours after the shooting, a reporter for the Stanford Advocate, who was outside Peter Lanza's house, told CNN's Wolf Blitzer that Lanza was apparently unaware of his son's involvement in the shooting.
I said, we've received a report that somebody at this address is connected to the shooting in Newtown. And his face just went from, he'd been this very polite stranger who was making pleasantries with me, and he went from that to sort of shock, and then just this horrified look, and essentially declined comment, rolled up his window, and went inside his house.
Peter Lanza, that lives an hour away, just 1 hour, and the person that breaks the news to him is a reporter.
Since then, he released a statement expressing condolences for victims' families and friends, adding, "We are in a state of disbelief and trying to find whatever answers we can. We, too, are asking why." Peter Lanza's sister-in-law told reporters both Lanza and his ex-wife were committed to their kids' welfare.
They were the type of parents, even when they were married, as well as being separated, if the kids had a need, they would definitely feel it.
Court documents show few hints of an acrimonious divorce and indicate a comfortable lifestyle. Irreconcilable differences were cited as the reason for the divorce, finalized when Adam was 17. Alimony was set for this year at $289,000.
I know Peter Lanza, well, it's rumored anyway that he makes about $1 million a year. This is still a very, very steep alimony payment. And you can see underneath the highlighted area, it only goes up. That combined with Adam's medical expenses, his college and graduate expenses, and a car, boy, he's gaining a lot with Adam and Nancy out of the picture. Not saying that Peter Lanza is involved. I'm just more suspicious as to why nobody's reporting, saying anything from him, why he hasn't said anything. And last I heard, he packed his bags up with his wife and hit the road.
Now, 15 months after the massacre, Peter has finally started going through the thousands of letters of support he has received.
The son, Mr. Thorne. The son of the devil. You're insane.
In an interview with The New Yorker, Lanza, who says he never goes one single hour without thinking of that day, says he's speaking out now because I want people to be afraid of the fact that this could happen to them. It doesn't have to be understood to be real. Lanza describes his son as a cheerful child who loved Sandy Hook School.
She loved her school, Sandy Hook. She loved
the mold, the wood rot.
She loved
It's water stain.
She loved
A form of algae.
And it's a special place.
And even used his savings to buy Christmas toys for needy children. But as the years passed, Lanza paints a picture of a troubled young man who began to struggle in middle school after being diagnosed with Asperger's syndrome. a diagnosis Adam refused to accept. Peter and Nancy separated in 2001. Peter's relationship with Adam strained. In fact, the two hadn't spoken in the 2 years leading up to the shooting. Lanza now says he wishes Adam had never been born, saying, "You can't get any more evil. How much do I beat up on myself about the fact that he's my son? A lot." Later continuing, "With hindsight, I know Adam would have killed me in a heartbeat if he had had the chance. I don't question that for a minute."
It's strange that they don't pan out and give a neighborhood view and try and interview neighbors to the degree they did Nancy to find out anything they could about Peter as well. But this guy's staying low.
Until today, Adam Lanza was known mostly in his neighborhood as someone who did not play well with others. A family friend, Barbara Frey, told ABC's Jim Avila that the son was troubled and the mother was demanding of him.
He was not connected with the other kids. My son played with him when they were young, and in her home, I know she was very particular. I just think she maybe had too high of standards or something, or focused overly too much for whatever reason.
So was there conflict? Was there some kind of tension between the two of them?
The parent and child?
Parent and the child, or?
Not that I know of, but I think the fact that the parents were divorced must have contributed to it.
We'll go backwards as far as we have to go in this investigation, and hopefully we'll stumble on answers.
But what even the crime profilers are having a hard time trying to figure out tonight is why the attack on the children, most of them killed on the spot, according to authorities. The only theory is based on reports that his mother, divorced 3 years ago and unemployed, may have worked as a teacher's aide at the school.
As his former classmate, Alex Israel.
I really only knew him closely when we were very, very young, when we were in elementary school together.
What?
I mean, I was never in any of his classes or anything like that, but yeah.
What? What? Say what again? Say what again? I dare you. I double dare you, motherfucker. Say what one more goddamn time.
I was never in any of his classes or anything like that. I thought this was the former classmate of the gunman. Oh, so the truth comes out, huh?
Talked to some of the people in this area, and that they were very familiar with the name Ryan Lanza and the Lanza brothers, and that they said that they were a well-known family in town.
In Adam Lanza's road, people described their community as close, but he wasn't part of it.
I was probably on the bus with him every day for years, but he wasn't really the type to stand out or notice. But then again, it's a long period of time, but there's a lot of people on the bus, and you don't really take notice of everybody.
So he really kept himself to himself?
That's... yes.
And there was no indication that somebody from your own street was going to do something?
None at all.
The Hockleys lived just yards away from the home of the gunman. She saw Adam Lanza only once. It was from a distance, the week of the attack.
Had you ever met the Lanzas?
I'm ashamed to admit no.
Ashamed? Why?
That house was kind of like a black spot in the neighborhood. No one spoke about them. I never heard a neighbor speak of them.
What's so interesting, Wolf, is that about 3 years ago, back in 2009, it's really the last time we have any hard record of any classes he took, any courses he was enrolled in. After that, right at the time that the divorce was finalized, it seems that Adam Lanza simply fell off the face of the earth. There is no record of anything that he did, what he may have accomplished, who he met with. We've had a very difficult time even finding friends who knew him from the period 2009 on. So he existed, but he existed in a world that really nobody knows about, Wolf.
It's a mystery, and all the reporters been asking around if anybody knows them on the block, and nobody knows them, which is odd for this neighborhood. It's very odd because a lot of people in this neighborhood know each other, and then if they don't know each other, they know of somebody.
Did you say this Adam? Maybe something went wrong with him. Was he a normal kid?
I don't remember Adam, except when he was a child. I knew him when he was younger.
And even someone we spoke to who lived just 2 doors down from the Lanzas said they had
had very little information about the family and didn't really know Adam Lanza.
What's so crazy about Adam Lanza is he appears to have fallen off the grid. There are basically 3 years that are unaccounted for. The last time there's any record of him was back in 2009 when he was a student at a local university here, and he was taking several classes there. But after that, in 2009, he just sort of falls away, so nobody really knows or understands what he was doing over the last couple of years.
It's almost as if he disappeared a few years ago and suddenly showed up to town again to do the shooting. Adam's name was also omitted from his mother's obituary, which is said to be because it would offend the families in Newtown. The only proof we have that he did exist comes from early school photos when he was much younger. Students that went to school with him and claimed he was the loner type and always carried around a briefcase, and a conversation between his aunt and his mother, which apparently exists on his mother's Facebook account. Although it is claimed that he could assemble a computer in seconds and exceeded in communications and computer-related studies.
They've also recovered what they call a trove of violent video games from the basement of Lanza's home.
You've seen one too many movies.
Now, Sid, don't you blame the movies. Movies don't create psychos. Movies make psychos more creative.
Sources say Lanza spent countless hours there alone in a private gaming room with the windows blacked out, honing his computer shooting skills.
To many, the running, the shooting, the score are just part of a virtual world online. But Jennifer Stenick says Xbox Live is a huge part of her son's real world.
It is his pretty much only outlet and his only friend because of autism.
11-year-old Julius says he'd racked up more than 1,500 achievements when he got ready to play last week and was socked in the stomach by Xbox Online.
He got online and it says cheater under his gamer tag, and they wiped up every achievement from every game he's ever owned. Yeah. It disgusts me that they did this to my child. If you have no friends and you have no life, and besides outside of your home, and this is all you do, because of your mental illness, then this is pretty devastating to him.
Police are now reaching out to people in the online gaming community who may have had encounters with Lanza to better understand, Scott, the full scope of what may have motivated him.
Bob, Lanza did everything he could to destroy the hard drives on the home computers. Have the investigators found anything from that?
No, unfortunately, Scott, so far they have not. Lanza's damaged computer has not yielded any usable clues, we're told. FBI experts, though, in the lab in Quantico are still trying to piece together the hard drive, which Lanza deliberately smashed, but we're told the equipment's in pretty bad shape.
The Daily Caller reports that the FBI sees smashed hard drives from the Wasserman Schultz IT aide's home. Pakistani-born Imran Awan. Imran was the IT aide to Debbie Wasserman Schultz. Of course, she was the former Democratic National Committee chairwoman. Imran has now since desperately tried to get these hard drives back, but it is not happening.
When you look at his intent to destroy those drives, what does your gut tell you was on his computer?
Obviously, incriminating evidence without a question.
Reports say the hard drive was smashed to bits, but Venema says there's still an outside chance of recovery.
Destroyed his computers before he drove to Shady Hook Elementary School on Friday.
Investigators say the Newtown gunman did such a thorough job, the FBI has been unable to retrieve any information from those computers.
First reports of this tragedy have turned out to be inaccurate. We were told that the gunman's mother was a teacher at the school, that he was allowed in because he was recognized, and that he targeted his mother's classroom with 2 handguns. Tonight, we know that all of that is wrong.
A majority of the misinformation produced by the authorities and the media have involved the Lanza family in an attempt to sell the public on the lone gunman's psychologically disturbed story. Some examples of the reports that were later determined to be untrue include arresting Adam's brother in New Jersey and claiming that he was the guilty suspect.
Police found identification at the scene that led them to believe the shooter was Ryan Lanza. They later learned the shooter was his younger brother, Adam Lanza.
My name's Pliskin.
State and federal authorities first identified the shooter as Adam's older brother, Ryan, now a New York accountant. That led to Ryan posting messages on his Facebook page.
Everyone shut the fuck up. It wasn't me. I'm on the bus home now. It wasn't me. It wasn't me. I was at work. It wasn't me. Fuck you, CNN. It wasn't me.
But when Ryan arrived at his home in Hoboken, New Jersey, police took him into custody for questioning.
On December 14, 2012, in response to the Sandy Hook Elementary School shooting and at the request of the Connecticut State Police, the Hoboken, New Jersey Police Department responded to 1313 Grand Street, Apartment 202, Hoboken, New Jersey, the home of Ryan Lanza. Initial details of the shooting identified Ryan Lanza as the possible perpetrator deceased at the scene. However, Hoboken Police Department located Ryan Lanza at his address and the perpetrator was subsequently identified as Ryan's brother, Adam Lanza.
Police Officer Nicola Rulaj.
We went to the location to secure the perimeter of the building along with the apartment. Once we arrived at the apartment door, Sergeant LaBruno knocked to see if anyone was home and no one answered the door. Captain Fitzsimmons was notified by Lieutenant Cruz and he responded to our location. Once he arrived, Captain Fitzsimmons and Lieutenant Cruz left the scene and went downstairs to speak to management of the building. I, along with Sergeant Labro, stayed behind to make sure no one entered or left the apartment. Captain Fitzsimmons, Jersey City Bomb Squad, and the Federal Bureau of Investigations arrived on scene. The bomb squad and FBI checked the apartment door and then went downstairs. I, along with Sergeant LaBruno, heard a noise coming from an apartment. A female opened apartment 202's door, Mr. Ryan Lanza's apartment. Sergeant LaBruno asked her why. When we knocked on her door, she did not open it. She said that she thought it was the FedEx delivery man. Captain Fitzsimmons, Lieutenant Cruz, Jersey City Bomb Squad, and the FBI responded to apartment 202. Captain Fitzsimmons asked the female if we could enter her apartment. She said yes. We conducted a check of the apartment to see if anyone was deceased, if the actor or other possible actors were in the apartment, any weapons or bombs were in the apartment. At that time none were found. Censored was taken to police headquarters. We checked the apartment to see if Censored was home. Censored said he was in California. Censored and Censored are boyfriend and girlfriend. They also have a residence in New York.
Patrolman Nicholas Burke.
I was met on the outside of 1313 Grand Street, Hoboken, by Captain James Fitzsimmons and Lieutenant Cruz. I was advised by Lieutenant Cruz that this residence may be the home of one Ryan J. Lanza. They were advised by officials in Connecticut that the 24-year-old Lanza was allegedly responsible for the mass shooting and the deaths of a number of children and the faculty at the Sandy Hook Elementary School in Connecticut. Patrolman Edward Lepper and myself noticed a male walking on the east side of Grand Street, the same side of 1313 Grand Street. He was approximately 200 feet from our location. As he came closer, Patrolman Lepper began to yell to the man to cross the street. He did not respond to Patrolman Lepper's orders. I began to walk towards the male and noticed from about 25 feet away that this was Ryan Lanza. The information we had was Ryan Lanza was the shooter in the school and he was reportedly dead. At this time, upon seeing Ryan Lanza making an accurate identification, it was clear the person deceased in Connecticut at the scene or the murders was misidentified. Due to these circumstances, Ryan Lanza was treated as a possible actor. I immediately began to shout, "Let me see your hands." Lepper and myself ordered Lanza again to let me see your hands, when he dropped to his knees, covered his head and yelled, "Please don't kill me, it was my brother, he killed my one too." He said he had just left his place of employment, Ernst & Young, 5 Times Square, New York. He began to cry and stated that his brother, Adam Peter Lanza, is the shooter and also killed his mother, Nancy Jean Lanza, at their home that they shared, 36 Yagananda Street, Sandy Hook, Connecticut. I asked Lanza how he knew this and he said he was notified by his father, Peter John Lanza. He continued to ramble on, as he sat in the rear of the radio car. While I sat next to Lanza, his cell phone, which I had in my possession, was ringing constantly. Lanza had asked me if Censored was alright. At this time, Lanza and myself were transported in an unmarked FBI radio car to Hoboken Police Headquarters. Lanza's phone rang with the phone number Dad as the caller. I was advised by Agent Lynch to allow Lanza to talk to the dad, Peter. After a brief conversation, I began to talk with Peter Lanza. Lanza said he was outside the Lincoln Tunnel trying to get to Hoboken, sitting in traffic, and just wanted to get to his son, Ryan. I then contacted the Port Authority Police Department to have Peter Lanza escorted to our police headquarters.
Police Officer Edward Lepper.
At approximately 1200 hours, Captain Fitzsimmons and I responded to 1313 Grand Street to meet with Lieutenant Cruz, Sergeant LaBruno and Police Officer Lulaj for a check of apartment number 202. Upon our arrival, Captain Fitzsimmons and I were informed by Lieutenant Cruz that the apartment in question has 3 residents and one of the residents was allegedly responsible for the Sandy Hook Elementary School mass shooting in Newtown, Connecticut. The alleged shooter, Ryan Lanza, allegedly took his own life. Lieutenant Cruz informed us that he has been in contact with members of the Connecticut State Police and they asked us not to enter the apartment at this time, until they can confirm some information they had about the alleged shooter and his family members. After a briefing at the scene by Hoboken Police Department, preparations were made to eventually clear the multi-family dwelling because of possible booby traps or explosives that may have been left by Lanza. Ryan Lanza's vehicle was in the building's parking lot in parking spot number 62. The 2 roommates of the alleged shooter were censored and to this point, both were still unaccounted for. While posted outside the building on the north end of the street, I ordered all news vans and media to post themselves behind the yellow tape at 14th and Grand Street. While posted there, I noticed a male walking under the yellow tape and walking on the east side of Grand Street towards me. I was approximately 30 yards away and ordered the male to stop, turn around and walk back to 14th Street. I repeated this order several times. The male was now approximately 10 feet away from me and he yelled out, "I live here." I then ordered him to stop and let me see his hands. The male had on a hat, glasses, and a scarf. He was dressed in a suit and appeared to be coming home from work or going to work. He also had a black bag with him. After I ordered him to stop, the male raised his hands above his head and dropped to his knees and yelled at me, "Please don't kill me. It wasn't me that killed all those people. You are looking for my brother. It was my brother who murdered everybody. My brother just killed my one too." Police Officer Burke ran over to my location to back me up and assist me with the identification of the male. The male did have a colored photo work identification card in his hand. The photo was the same photo and name of the alleged shooter, Ryan J. Lanza. He began to cry and stated that his brother, Adam Peter Lanza, is the shooter and he killed his mother, Nancy Jean Lanza, at her home, 46 Yonanda Street.
Authorities want to know if Ryan or anybody else in the family had any idea Adam was threatening to become violent. Tonight, Adam's brother Ryan and his father Peter, a GE tax lawyer, were questioned by the FBI and police in New Jersey, looking for clues as to what led the youngest member of the family to kill. Someone believed to be Ryan Lanza left the station tonight without comment.
When Adam's brother was arrested as a suspect of the crime, the media reported that he was likely arrested because Adam had his brother's identification on him. However, Ryan has stated that he had not seen his brother in a few years prior.
And now we are hearing that Ryan Lanza may be connected to the shooting and his brother may have been with him. We know that when we first arrived on scene, there was a man that was escorted out of the wooded area near the school, and that person told a parent, "It wasn't me, it wasn't me." And then we heard from police that the shooter was found dead inside the school. We know from a source that the shooter was wearing camo pants, and we know, according to what people saw on scene here, is that person being escorted out of the woods was also wearing camo pants in their description. So maybe they showed up here together. That's still very unclear. Maybe one brother didn't know what the other brother had planned, if he was just trying to help him figure out what was going on. But it's just a lot of information that we still need to try to pin down and make clear.
We initially were reporting, what CBS News was reporting, that it was Ryan Lanza. New reports are coming out from CBS that they're not going to use the first name anymore, that it could be Adam Lanza, his brother. What are you hearing there?
Well, that's interesting, because we did talk to a lot of the people, and we told them that, you know, that we were from sources hearing that it was Ryan Lanza. They said, "Oh, he has a brother," and then that's where it was starting to get a little bit confusing. So at this point, it's very unclear, and the state police have not identified the shooter. but some sources were telling us that it was one of the Lanza brothers that was involved in the shooting, and possibly another one of the brothers was actually in custody, and that matches up with some of those first-hand accounts of what we heard was some of the one of the Lanza brothers possibly being escorted out of the wooded area, and him saying to a parent, "It wasn't me, it wasn't me."
The gunman was identified at 11:28 as, again, 24-year-old Ryan Lanza of New Jersey.
They're also going to locations associated with the shooter, not just directly associated with Ryan Lanza, his residence, and they're looking for a location in New Jersey there.
Cops have identified the shooter as a 24-year-old man, Ryan Lanza.
We have just now confirmed apparently the shooter is identified. He is 20-year-old Ryan Lanza.
The shooter, it is Ryan Lanza. Ryan Lanza is the shooter.
The shooter has been identified to me by a source as Ryan Lanza.
It's worth noting that there were other unusual reports in those first few days, including that he lived with his father, Peter Lanza, that his girlfriend and a friend were missing, and that his father was found dead in his home. But not his home in Stamford, a home in Hoboken. Outside of the initial blitz of Facebook posts and the media's reporting of Ryan in those first few days, nothing else about Ryan has been reported.
This is the Adam Lanza search warrant that the deceased male has been tentatively identified as Adam Lanza. It doesn't say anything about him being tentatively identified as Ryan Lanza, later to be clarified that it was Adam Lanza. That on 12/14, agents of the Federal Bureau of Investigation interviewed, this would be a confidential informant, who stated, rarely leaves his home and considers him to be a shut-in and an avid gamer who plays Call of Duty amongst other games, and had attended Sandy Hook Elementary School, and that the school was Adam Lanza's life. How come the confidential informant doesn't state the name Adam Lanza at all? This is a search warrant to retrieve and collect items inside the house. Investigators also noted a smashed computer hard drive on top of a desk in what is believed to be Adam Lanza's bedroom. Here is the bedroom, and you'll see here's the hard drive here. There's the hard drive up close. Investigators also noted a gaming console here in the same bedroom. Over to the left is video game consoles and gun safe in the same room. Now remember, the FBI said, the informant said that the blank name would stay in his room and play games, and he had guns in the room and a gun safe. So, okay, that's Adam Lanza's room, right? And you will see here that the VCR here is right under this table. There is the VCR. It is now turned this way. And now there is a VHS tape laying up on top of this right next to the TV. Now you will see that VHS tape is no longer sitting here, but it has been moved to this pull-out drawer and has an evidence tag. This tape belonged to Ryan Lanza, which these are paper items that were seized by law enforcement. And some of the things that I find very interesting: school-related paperwork pertaining to Adam Lanza, and Sandy Hook report card for Adam Lanza. Here is that memorabilia. I want to show you this letter right here. That says Ryan Lanza. They said they also found a report card, and this is a Sandy Hook report card. This social studies report card is for, in fact, Ryan Lanza. Here in this same box, here you can see right over here is another letter with the name Ryan Lanza on it. This is a card to Mrs. Lanza, and it says, "Thank you for being such a special volunteer. Fifth grade stepping up ceremony, June 10th, 1999. Ryan Lanza was 24 years old in 2012. In 1999, he would have been approximately 10 years old, which would have put him in the 4th grade, getting ready to go into the 5th grade. Nowhere have I found in any photographs or any evidence that Mrs. Lanza had volunteered at the time that Adam Lanza would have attended Sandy Hook School, but we do see it here for a date that matches up with Ryan Lanza's attendance to Sandy Hook School. This is pictures of the basement. This is a AAA card right here. Ryan Lanza. This is the downstairs computer. Next to this computer is a AAA card, Adam Lanza. So what I did was, I called AAA, and when I asked them about this number right here, and they told me, oh, is this Mr. Ryan Lanza?
The most recent picture of Nancy we have seen is from 2011. She is at a wedding reception with Ryan. Adam is not pictured. Despite all reports of Nancy continuously caring for Adam, we have yet to see a single photograph of the two of them together.
So just to clarify, this whole name thing has been very confusing because multiple sources were calling him Ryan Lanza and the brother Adam Lanza. We do know the brother's in custody, and perhaps there was some confusion when the initial information came out from law enforcement officials after the brother was taken into custody.
And these kinds of things do happen when we have a live situation and information is coming from all different sources. So we'll try to get that buttoned down for you, but we do know it is a person whose surname is Lanza.
Absolutely.
And whose mother was a kindergarten teacher at Sandy Hook Elementary School and was killed this morning in her classroom.
Claims that Nancy Lanza was a kindergarten teacher at Sandy Hook Elementary School and that her body had been found inside of the school.
Nancy Lanza had worked as a volunteer at the Sandy Hook Elementary School were denied by the school's superintendent on December 15, 2012. However, in December 2013, the release of documents related to the case included a card found at Nancy Lanza's home dating from 1999.
There's conflicting information as to whether the killer's mother, Nancy Lanza, worked at the school. Some people say that the principal recognized the gunman at the security buzzer, and that's why she buzzed him in. She knew him as the son of a colleague. But other people are saying they know of no connection between the killer's mother, Nancy Lanza, and the school.
The mother of the shooter is also dead. She is a teacher at the school. So dead. She is a teacher at the school.
And state police also confirming today that neither Lanza or his mother had any connection to that school.
Not far from Sandy Hook Elementary, I happened to run across a woman who had tears in her eyes. Turns out she was the school nurse at Sandy Hook Elementary and was for 15 years. She described the gunman coming into her office. They met eyes, she jumped under her desk, and he inexplicably just walked out. Just absolutely chilling, horrifying details that are emerging here in Newtown tonight. But I did ask if it was known around this school that this young man, apparently a kindergarten teacher's son, was an issue, whether he had any problems, and she said not at all. And I asked if she knew the suspect's mother, and she said she did, and that she was an absolutely loving person and a very caring, experienced kindergarten teacher, just the kind of person you would want with your 5-year-old children.
And state police also confirming today that neither Lanza or his mother had any connection to that school. Neither Lanza or his mother had any connection to that school.
And we are told that the mother of the suspected shooter, who is also dead at the scene, was also killed. She is a teacher, and she was also killed at that school, according to our law enforcement sources. According to our law enforcement sources.
And we are joined now by another survivor of this tragedy, the school nurse, Sally Cox. Thank you for coming in this morning. And I know this is difficult, but take us back to that moment. When did you first know something had gone wrong?
Hearing loud popping noise. I mean, just something I've never heard in my life. And Your mind doesn't think that it could be that, but when the secretary called out to me, with terror in her voice, it just told me there was something terrible happening.
And that's when you went under the desk?
My computer desk, yes.
And while you're under there, you actually see the feet of the shooter?
There's an opening in the back for wiring, and as I was crouching down, I could see my doorway, because in the office, you enter the office and then into my office. And when I heard the door close, and he probably walked in, and I was looking, and I could see him from the knees down, see the legs.
Right in front of you.
20 feet away.
She described the gunman coming into her office. They met eyes, she jumped under her desk, and he inexplicably just walked out.
The school nurse, Sally Cox, claimed in the following interview that she knew Nancy Lanza and Adam, and that Nancy worked at the school, information which was later found to be untrue. Sally also originally claimed that she was face-to-face with the shooter and made eye contact, yet later claimed that she hid under her desk and saw the killer's feet enter the office and then leave.
This young man clearly had a major issue this morning when he woke up and according to federal authorities, killed his mother, then went to her school after she was already dead and killed every kid in her class.
Mothers from the Newtown Brookfield East Moms Club. It's an organization in Newtown and Brookfield that gathers stay-at-home moms, and we give each other an outlet just to be together, to organize play dates, to do civic functions.
Joining us now is Abby Clements, a second-grade teacher at Sandy Hook Elementary. She was evacuated from the campus this morning. Ms. Clements, I have no words. Thank you for being with us.
Sure.
The young man who is alleged to have been the shooter, Ryan Lanza, who was identified, his mother teaches at the school. Is she someone that you knew well?
No, I can't really figure out who that is.
Nancy Lanza, that doesn't ring a bell.
Can you say the name again?
Nancy Lanza. Lanza.
The last name does not, so I don't know if that's her maiden name or if it's, so I don't know.
No, that's fine. I'm not trying to push you to talk about anything. I just didn't know if you knew that.
No, it's very confusing because I'm listening and it doesn't match anything that I heard, but you can imagine we're all trying to figure out what happened, but at the same time we don't want to know what happened.
So it's interesting that she says, well, the last name doesn't really ring a bell. That means the first name, Nancy, did ring a bell. Anne is a nickname for Nancy, just like Bill is a nickname for William. And another interesting thing is, this Abby Clements is the same person who Ann Haddad had her child in her classroom, because Ann Haddad was going by Nancy, and when she was doing her little volunteer work at Sandy Hook Elementary. People keep saying that because they saw a woman who looked just like Nancy Lanza at the school, and it was a woman who was likely going by the name Nancy. And then, so how do we know that Ann Haddad has some sort of a teaching background? Well, if she even mentions it on a little donation page she sets up, where she says she was they were both teachers of special needs children. If you type her name into Google Maps anywhere near the East Coast, guess what pops up? St. Rose of Lima pops up, because Ann Haddad worked at St. Rose of Lima and then subsequently volunteered at Sandy Hook, just being called Nancy. One of the past addresses listed by Ann Haddad was 1 Mill Street, Port Chester, New York. If you go to that address, you find a small little bar called Sam's Bar and Grill. It's about 40 miles away from Sandy Hook. Okay, so looking into this bar and grill more, who do we find sitting inside who's a regular attendee at this bar and grill? None other than Caitlin Roig, one of the main players in this entire event. A bar and grill that for some reason Ann Haddad has listed as a past residence. Okay, hers was, in one it's listed as 1 Mill Street number 2, Port Chester, New York, but in others it's just listed as 1 Mill Street. So that's a little bit strange to me that Caitlin Roig would show up in an address listed by Ann Haddad in another state over, and just hanging out in a bar, main player. I mean, you would have to be a big believer in coincidence theory to let all these things go. Does anybody else have a problem with this? She's on the freaking Sandy Hook PTA. She looks almost exactly like Nancy Lanza, if not exactly like Nancy Lanza, and nobody mentions that they look alike. Kind of like the mom's night out meetups, where nobody mentions that she looks a lot like this other woman in the mom's night out meetups. What you want? What you want?
Know his family, his mother in particular?
I mean, I knew her, we lived in the neighborhood, so I knew her through neighborhood events. My mom knew her. I mean, she was a very nice woman, a kindergarten teacher, obviously.
Whoa! Why is this girl calling her a kindergarten teacher? As we know, Nancy Lanza is not a kindergarten teacher. Now, this girl is supposed to know Adam Lanza. This is why they brought her on the show. Piers Morgan, this is why you brought this girl on the show, because she knows Adam Lanza, because you and we don't know Adam Lanza like that, but she has some connection to him, and she over here telling us that Nancy Lanza was a teacher. Why she lying?
Statements claiming that Adam had entered the school the day before and got into a dispute with 4 teachers, 3 of whom he killed during the attack.
There was, and we've been told this by a couple of officials, there was some kind of altercation. He went to the school, got in an argument with 4 staff members, and we're still trying to determine what the nature of that is.
Williams reported first on Saturday. He said there had been some kind of an altercation at Sandy Hook Elementary School the day before the shootings, and that it was believed Adam Lanza might have been involved in that altercation with up to 4 teachers or administrators. Can you shed any light on that?
That's been spoken about a great deal during the number of press conferences that we've had, and we've been able to look at that and find out that there was no report of any altercation involving the shooter, the suspect, if you will, at all at that facility.
Well, I think that a lot of things that people hear aren't true. And I know the first couple of days I was just getting angry because I was hearing things that I knew didn't happen.
We did not bring the bodies and the families into contact. We took pictures of them. You can control the situation depending on your photographer, and I have very good photographers.
Now, few people know that the Office of Chief Medical Examiner in Connecticut had this policy long before the Sandy Hook shooting. In this pamphlet for families, it states, quote, visual identification at the Office of the Chief Medical Examiner is performed through the use of a closed-circuit television system.
Because I have not found even one, not even one example of any person identifying any loved one via photograph or any other way. Not one family member that I have been able to find identified their own deceased loved one. On 12/14/12, this officer was assigned as the liaison to the family of Don Hochsprung. Hochsprung was the principal at Sandy Hook Elementary School and had not been located. This officer was assigned to collect identifying information and a photograph of Don Hochsprung. Shortly after this officer collected the above-stated information, the families were advised that there were no surviving people inside the school. This officer advised the family that the identification process may take some time and that it may be advisable to return to their residence, which clearly states that they are not part of the identification process. They are simply providing identifying information. That information is being passed along to law enforcement or the coroners or other medical personnel, and those people are making the identification. Next one. On Friday, December 14th at approximately 1500 hours, which is 3 o'clock in the afternoon, as part of the continued investigation into the shooting incident at the Sandy Hook Elementary School, which occurred at approximately 9:30 hours, troopers were assigned to meet with the families, relatives of possible victims and obtain a physical description of the victim, a photograph of the victim if possible, as well as any other pertinent information to assist the medical examiner in the positive identification of each victim. I was assigned to meet with family members of school psychologist Mary Sherlack. I met with, who I can only assume is her husband Bill, it's redacted, at the Sandy Hook firehouse and obtained the following information from him. Her name, white female, date of birth, 56 years old, green eyes, red shoulder-length wavy hair. This clearly spells out the fact that someone else other than Bill is going to be making the identification. Moving on. On 12/14/12, while on scene of Sandy Hook Elementary School, where a school shooting had occurred, I was assigned as the liaison to the family of Redacted, a first-grade student of Amanda D'Amato's class who had not been located along with several others. I was assigned to meet with the family to obtain a physical description of the victim, a photograph of the victim if possible, as well as any other pertinent information to assist the medical examiner in the positive identification of each victim. Next, on 12/14/12, this trooper was assigned as the liaison to the family of Redacted, a first-grade student in Amanda D'Amato's class who had not been located. This trooper was assigned to collect identifying information and a photograph of Redacted. Parents were identified to be Redacted. Shortly after this trooper collected the above-stated information, the families were advised that there were no surviving children inside the school. The trooper advised the Redacted that the identification process may take some time and that it may be advisable to return to their residence. They were driven home. They are clearly not part of the identification process. Next, on the evening of 12/14/12, I was ordered to report to the command post at the Sandy Hook Volunteer Fire Department. Upon arrival, I was directed to make the death notification of Redacted to his parents, also Redacted. Also assigned to assist me with this assignment were specialists from the American Red Cross, etc., etc. They drove from the command post to the Redacted residence, located at Redacted. They met with Redacted at their residence, and they were formally informed that their son, Redacted, had positively been identified via photographs and was confirmed deceased. They were informed that their son had been positively identified via photographs. These people were not part of the identification process. Next, this is the identification of Lorne Russo, to whom I can only assume is Gilles Russo. These people show up at the home to which they are making this identification at 0:45 hours, which is 12:45 a.m. They met Redacted at his residence. Redacted was sleeping at the time and was awakened by knocking at his door. Redacted was formally informed that Redacted was deceased and that she had been positively identified through photographs. Redacted stated he was still numb to the whole thing. After asking basic questions about Lorne Russo, the said specialists on scene tried to console Redacted. Redacted stated he did not want any of their services that night. Gilles Russo has claimed publicly in a CBC interview that he was not even allowed to see Lorne, who has since been cremated. So not only did this man not identify his daughter, he never even got to see her after she died and before she was cremated. Moving on. On December 14th at approximately 2100 hours, which is, 9 p.m., Sergeant Cavello, Major Crime, inquired if I could obtain Department of Motor Vehicle license photos of the adult victims involved in the Sandy Hook Elementary School shooting. Subsequently, a request was placed with the Connecticut Intelligence Center to obtain DMV license photographs of the following individuals: Anne Marie Murphy, Lauren Russo, Rachel Davino, Victoria Soto, and Dawn Hawksprung. CTIC subsequently fulfilled my request and emailed DMV license photographs of the aforementioned victims. Skimming down a little bit, you'll see that I subsequently aided in the identification of Dawn Hawksprung, who was personally known to me. Dawn Hawksprung was identified by this law enforcement officer, not by her family. And if none of this has sunk in with you yet, here is the most egregious example. These officers show up at someone's home to make identification. Of course, all the personal information is redacted. They are there to give formal death notification to the family of a student that was in Victoria Soto's first grade classroom. I arrived on scene and was met by multiple family members at the address. I spoke with an unidentified male and asked for either redacted. The unidentified male stated they were both upstairs sleeping and invited us in. The unidentified male then went upstairs and brought both of them into the dining room to sit with us. I advised Redacted that Redacted was confirmed as one of the victims. Redacted asked how she was identified. These people didn't even know how their child was identified positively as a victim and were home sleeping when they found out officially. The officer explains that investigators in the medical examiner's office confirmed her identification through class records, description, and photographs. I am telling you, I have not found one example of any family member personally identifying any victim in any way. All identifications were carried out by law enforcement personnel or the coroner's office.
It's got to be, hard not to have been able to actually see her.
Well, at first I thought that, and I had questioned maybe wanting to see her.
Being a parent myself, I know for a fact that I would want to see my child physically before laying them to rest. It seems quite odd that the parents of the deceased children did not see their child post-mortem to say their last goodbyes. The funerals for the child victims were held very quickly after the shooting, and one would think that with the amount of deceased involved in this scenario, it would take much longer for them to be processed. However, this is not the case.
Parents who rush to the firehouse to pick up their kids are not dressed in professional clothes. Yet Newtown was a commuter town. No high heels, no suits, just sweatshirts, t-shirts, parkas, and jeans. Although Robert K. Parker, his full name, was supposed to be a physician's assistant, you can't find information about him as a professional on the internet other than that. And here, in his t-shirt and jeans, he looks like he's running in a 10K.
Ready to come to the microphone, so we'll listen in. Okay. My name's Robbie Parker. My family is one of the families that lost a child yesterday in the Sandy Hook Elementary School shootings here in Connecticut. I've been contacted by so many people and agencies wanting to know
Strangely, lots of people in the Sandy Hook story were new to town. A great blog, sandyhooktruth.wordpress.com, tells us that many of the houses around Sandy Hook Elementary were bought on December 25th, 2009. That's Christmas Day. They are now sold, up for sale, and or foreclosure. The Parkers had moved from Ogden, Utah 8 months prior. The Lanzas had returned. The Wheeler family was new. The Marquez Greens were new. The Hockleys, Manfredonias, and Hensel Richmonds were new. Even a caller to Diane Sawyer said she and her family were new arrivals.
We just moved here a year and a half ago from Providence, living in an urban area. We, thought we were coming to a much safer, secure place. Never would have thought anything like this would happen here. And it's a large town, but it's got a real small town family feel.
Prior to the Sandy Hook event, Newtown, Connecticut was most famously known for a 300-acre property called Fairfield Hills. Operating from 1931 to 1995, the Fairfield Hills Hospital housed the area's mentally ill and criminally insane. Uniformly connected by underground tunnels, the 16 red brick buildings was where cruel psychiatric experiments took place involving electric shock therapy, hydrotherapy, and frontal lobotomies. Mysterious deaths and suicides were also connected to this macabre facility. Because of its haunting history, the MTV series Fear used Fairfield Hills as its setting in one of its episodes. The movie Sleepers, starring Robert De Niro and Kevin Bacon, was also staged in Newtown. Passing through the fearsome tunnels underneath the hospital proved haunting for aspiring adventurers and thrill seekers. For well over 80 years, Fairfield Hills was Newtown's sole cryptic mystery.
A Russian immigrant died in that hospital approximately 1978.
Right.
There are, and now Orly, you have to consult Orly for the exact records that she has managed to dig up through FOIA requests and direct contact with the Social Security Administration. But I've seen a couple pieces online,
Right.
and I believe she has sort of maybe an immigration record, maybe a Social Security application card, because this man was born all the way back in 1890. By the 1970s, he was elderly, and this psychiatric ward also accepted elderly hospice patients. So he's allegedly Harrison. Here's the name, folks: Harrison, middle initial J like Jeremy, last name Buñuel, with a B like boy, O-U-N like Nancy, E-L. Harrison J. Buñuel, this Russian immigrant. He's hanging out. He's an elderly hospice patient. He's hanging out at the Fairfield State Psychiatric Hospital in the middle of Newtown, Connecticut.
Right.
He has to get a Social Security number. Why does he have to do that? He's elderly. He's close to death. Why would you get a Social Security number? Well, you can't get Medicare benefits, apparently, unless at that time you have to go get a Social Security number.
Right.
So he applies, or the staff of the hospital applies and obtains a Social Security number for Harrison J. Buñuel.
Right.
He dies at some point. Okay, he's an elderly hospice patient. He dies at some point. My best guess is 1978. I could be wrong. When you die, you can't report yourself dead because you just died.
Right.
So somebody else has to report you dead. If you died in a psychiatric hospital or a hospice situation, the care workers, the administrator of the building would probably say, "Oh, we've lost another one, sadly, and here is his information, and we're reporting him dead." And they would report him dead to Social Security. But that appears to not have happened because per Orly Tates' research, his Social Security number is still active and it's still being used. And where did it turn up? It apparently turned up on the top of Barack Hussein Obama's 2009 federal tax return.
There's nothing I can or should add. The American public saw exactly what the president's emotional reaction to this was. It was evident to everyone who watched the president pause, to take in the moment of that pause, and they saw him wipe a tear from his eyes. That, in all ways, encapsulates the president's emotional reaction. And when he said to the country, "We've seen too many of these tragedies, and that it is time to take meaningful action, regardless of the politics," he said something he has never said before in immediate reaction to events like this, which he has witnessed
in his presidency. Mass shootings, victims, children, inexplicable horror, suggesting to the country that he is prepared to take action and perhaps political risks he hasn't before to confront and change the underlying dynamics that brought this tragedy and this grimly historic day to the briefing room and the rest of the country.
It doesn't even seem real. It just does not seem like it's even possible. It's
because this boy died in Sandy Hook mass school shooting apparently in 2012 in America.
The playground of the Army Public School has turned into a memorial. Posters with photographs of pupils who died in the Taliban massacre that happened.
Right, that's okay. So they're reporting a story. Now here's the problem. This is in Peshawar in Pakistan. So who's putting up this memorial? They are in Pakistan. So it begs the question: why would they have a picture of Noah Posner?
I hope they and I hope the people of Newtown don't have a crash on their head later.
All right, let's get right into this. You got this picture right here from the Daily Mail's website. This was way back when this stuff first started. You got the girl pictured on the right. That's Allison Wyatt. She was supposedly killed in the Sandy Hook shooting. It's really sad, you know. You know, the picture got around, got a lot of likes on Facebook, got passed around on Instagram and a whole bunch of other websites. But there's one problem. A mother saw this photo and she said, you know what? That's my kid's photo. That is my child's photo, but the name you're talking about, that's not the name. And my child is alive. And actually, we can go to her Instagram right here. She's making a plea saying, hey man, I need your help. I'm confused as heck. What's going on here? My child's name is Lily. That's a picture of my child Lily on her first day of kindergarten. What's going on? So she was spooked out by this. And here's her Twitter as well. So Kathy Galbert, of course, is mad as heck. So what she does is she gets all those Facebook photos taken down, and somehow the word got out and they end up changing the photo on the Daily Mail. Of course they're gonna change the photo. But check this out. A lot of other websites did it too. This Lily girl, not Allison Wyatt. You see that? But guess what? They end up changing it too. Why would you do that? Why would you have that picture in the first place? Where in the heck did you get that original picture from? Because there is no excuse to have a dang fake photo of a victim who's killed in a shooting.
And a photo of Lily Gobert was published as Allison Wyatt of Sandy Hook, and Lily Gobert's mother set the record straight. Why didn't the Wyatts speak out to say, this isn't Allison?
They don't have a problem with raising money now, do they?
Holy weird riddles.
Petitions were started addressing the White House with a request to ban all conspiracy theory videos and articles in relation to the Sandy Hook conspiracy, and likely all materials that question these types of events and government in general.
Police statements.
One thing that's becoming somewhat of a concern, and that is misinformation that's being posted on social media sites. It is important to know that we have discussed with federal authorities that these issues are crimes. They will be investigated statewide and federally, and prosecution will take place when people perpetrating this information are identified. Again, all information relative to this case is coming from these microphones, and any information coming from other sources cannot be confirmed, and in many cases it's been found is inaccurate. So any of that information and people that are putting that information up there in any manner, all right, that can be construed as a violation of state or federal law, will be prosecuted, will be investigated and prosecuted.
Katie returns to Newtown.
Everywhere we turned, we saw glimpses of light emerging from the darkness.
How are the families of the Sandy Hook tragedy moving forward?
For the first time, officials released photos taken inside Lanza's home, where he had first killed his mother, Nancy. His bedroom and computer room, with their windows covered by black garbage bags, were the lair of a recluse. There was a shooting range target with holes in it, video games that authorities say he spent hours playing.
Yeah, it does.
Okay, well, he's to the right of us, left of us.
Swag. An open gun safe with a teddy bear on top.
London today, Sandy Hook victim Emily Parker was honored. A playground was officially opened today called Emily's Shady Spot. Emily loved art, and the drawings you see on this playground are her very own. Emily's family has also opened up their own charity organization in her name to help fund art projects for children called the Emily Parker Art Collection.
And anyway, so that they were hoping that President Obama would hear her words tonight if we could get them read on air. So she gave me a letter, and unfortunately there were too many people at the wake for me to get up to actually see the family, so the letter was passed back to me.
Okay.
But this is what she wrote, and if you could read it, because I can't.
Okay. But the family gave permission.
The family wants, they told me to bring it to you.
Okay. It says, my name is Natalie Barden, and I wanted to tell the president that only police officers and the military should get guns.
What do you want Sandy Hook promised to accomplish?
We want to be part of a proper, intelligent conversation.
Gun control.
Those weapons.
People that had guns.
It was unbelievable to imagine that a normal person can just have this gun.
Weapon.
These huge guns and
or an AR-15.
Assault ban.
Gun violence.
Guns. I called my mom. She said that
your story, as if they didn't know your story. You've had to tell it to them over again.
I know we're not going to stop, so people are going to get really sick of us.
And it's sad to think that, you know, people would change their mind after seeing these photos. But I'm telling you, they had baseball-sized holes in them. That's horrible enough. Can't you just deal with that?
I've also asked the school board to make a part of every day some kind of anti-violence, anti-gun message. Every day, every school, at every level. One thing that I think is clear with young people and with adults as well is that we just have to be repetitive about this. It's not enough to simply have a catchy ad on a Monday and then only do it every Monday. We need to do this every day of the week and just really brainwash people into thinking about guns in a vastly different way.
And celebrities have gotten on board.
Sandy Brook.
Where's Sandy Hook?
Sandy Brook.
Sandy Hook.
Hook.
Sandy Hook Elementary.
Stopping gun violence takes courage. The courage to do what's right. The courage of new ideas. I've seen more courage when my life was on the line. Now is the time to come together. Be responsible.
We have had enough. Enough of the NRA and their tactics. Like, Danny DeVito, broke the view,
But these tragedies never lead to tougher gun control, ever.
We're not doing enough. And we will have to change.
To close the gun show loophole in Colorado after Columbine, when the legislature wouldn't do it, we did it.
We need gun control. And people who want to move in that direction, I think, need to rethink longer-term ways to change public opinion.
For gun control, stop for gun control.
Virginia Tech.
It was unbelievable to imagine that a normal person can just have this gun.
Do is I'd replace the buzzers with a machine gun and just take them all out and do the public a massive favor.
And it's time that in America we start looking at mental illness.
Newtown.
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 Tucson.
Aurora.
Fort Hood. Enough.
Julianne Moore.
Enough.
Columbine.
Kill white folks and they pay you for it? What's not to like? I like the way you die, boy.
And I kill all the white people in the movie. How great is that?
Columbine.
How many more? For the children of Sandy Hook.
As a husband.
As a wife.
Don't worry, I have tons more ideas.
Okay,
So sorry. New ringtone.
You demand it. And everybody talking about gun control. Gotta get rid of the guns. Fuck that, I like guns. You got a gun, you don't have to work out.
How many more houses of faith?
I hope the Jews did kill Christ. I'd do it again. I'd fucking do it again in a second.
How many more houses of faith?
Enough. We need the umbrella, some whiskey, and we need a machine gun. You get better. Enough.
Blame the gun.
Die, you mother!
A new film directed by Quentin Tarantino.
AK-47, when you absolutely, positively got to kill every mother in the room, except no substitutes.
To an unstable, suicidal individual are unable to connect the necessary dots to prevent this from happening again.
Homeland Security says fight, and I'd be a little more aggressive, and I'd say attack.
Stand and fight, Joker!
To stop the threat.
Your days of crime are over.
Get them, boys. Get them, or it's curtains!
Now, is that a good idea? No, it's a horrible idea. Realizing it needs to be as violent and as hard as you possibly can put forth.
We call it, in the military, field expedient weapons. In the police department, we use our utility belt.
That replica of your utility belt was too exact. We analyzed the core unit and found paralyzing gas.
If you are in an office building and you are behind a desk and a shooter comes in and you have no safe way out, hit them.
All right, boys, our umbrella!
And don't stop hitting them until you survive. If you have a chair, hit them with a chair.
Holy New Year's Eve! He's got me in his famous trick streamers!
If you have a phone, smack them in the head with a phone. If you can dive over a cubicle on top of someone and take them to the ground.
Now, gentlemen, 2 against 3. I'd say the odds are even.
Yell for help and ask for other people to help you incapacitate the shooter. Hit the gun out of their hand. Hit them in the face. Hit them anywhere that you think it might hurt them. But you want to incapacitate the shooter as quickly as possible.
Attack with everything and everyone that you have.
Say hello to my little friend! Okay, Batman, let's deliver the punchline.
National media want to focus all their attention on why guns were legal in the first place. National media seems too busy playing the political game, not busy enough looking into what really happened. And that is Reality Check.
I've also asked the school board to make a part of every day some kind of anti-violence, anti-gun message. Every day, every school, at every level. One thing that I think is clear with young people and with adults as well is that we just have to be repetitive about this. It's not enough to simply have a catchy ad on a Monday and then only do it every Monday. We need to do this every day of the week and just really brainwash people into thinking about guns in a vastly different way.
This law is going to make this state a safer state.
That will make our communities safer.
And we can make Connecticut towns and cities safer. And this bill does that.
For all the Americans who are counting on us to keep them safe from harm.
We have federal regulations and state laws
that prohibit hunting ducks with more than 3 rounds, and yet it's legal to hunt humans with 15-round, 30-round, even 150-round magazines. And just kill people for no good reason.
Today is not the day to, I believe, as a father, a day to engage in the usual Washington policy debates. I think that day will come, but today's not that day.
He was also, Jay Carney specifically asked about whether assault weapons ban, whether that remains a commitment of the president, and the answer was yes, it does remain a commitment of his.
What happened, 22 decades ago was that the assault weapons ban was left to expire. And they had started at that time, the CDC had started researching on ways to prevent gun violence. And what happened instead was that the NRA and the NSSF got a hold of some of our elected officials, and they were able to get them to stop trying to find out ways to get information to prevent gun violence. Well, we weren't looking. We weren't paying attention. They changed the laws. They let these things expire. We're going to mess up. We're going to mess up. We're going to mess up.
Peanuts and popcorn. Peanuts, popcorn. My son can't eat them. You know why? Because the undisclosed adjuvants and ingredients and vaccines that my own pediatrician didn't know on September 27th of this year. I had to tell him what they were. Adjuvant 65-4 is peanut oil. How many kids do you know are allergic to peanuts today? They cross-react with nuts. And the mercury gets in the brains. The boys have 2 X chromosomes. They can't flush it out of their system. Check the hair. It'll tell you if the mercury's getting out. Most boys can't get it out. You know what that leads to? Learning disabilities, dyslexia, mental health problems. Then, instead of taking care of them and giving them services, we drug them with psychotropic drugs. Let the kernels, popcorn, remember? Kernels Pop, Virginia Tech, Newtown, those are only the first kernels. We got 1/4 of them in schools on psychotropic drugs. These are children. They shouldn't be on this. They shouldn't be on this at all. Check all the conflicts of interest, the disclosures on all the people who have stock in Big Pharma. Thank you very much.
Is that we just have to be repetitive about this. It's not enough to simply have a catchy ad on a Monday and then only do it every Monday. We need to do this every day of the week and just really brainwash people into thinking about guns in a vastly different way.
And here's one for you, Aaron. I think we can both agree that we need to stop gun trafficking. Do you agree with that?
Stop gun trafficking? Yes.
Illegal gun trafficking.
Yes.
Then you would support my recommendation that we arrest Eric Holder.
Well, no, I don't support that.
Well, if you want to stop gun trafficking, why don't we go after the guy that's trafficking guns? That would be Eric Holder.
And just really brainwash people into thinking about guns in a vastly different way.
Well, if you want to stop gun trafficking, why don't we go after the guy that's trafficking guns? That would be Eric Holder.
It's our job to make sure it doesn't happen for our son.
After weeks of going back and forth, lawmakers reach an agreement on gun control.
What do you want? When do you want it?
What we're going to do is going to fundamentally alter or eliminate the possibility of another mass shooting or guarantee that we will bring gun deaths down to 1,000 a year from what it is now.
The gun bill, drafted in response to Newtown, was voted down in the Senate, but that has not diminished the determination of these families.
I will do whatever it takes.
I've heard folks say that having the families of victims lobby for this legislation was somehow misplaced. A prop, somebody called them. Emotional blackmail, some outlets said. Are they serious?
If there was a war on anything right now, the war against the multi-billion-dollar pharmaceutical companies in the United States, punishing and reforming Wall Street, for gross financial crimes committed in 2008, but instead the war against guns, Americans' right to self-defense, and the Second Amendment. Instead of waging war on the true causes of gun violence, like the degeneration of American culture and society, the increase in violent behavior as a result of first-person shooter video games, glorified Hollywood movies, and prescription medications, Obama has decided instead to wage a war on guns. But what happens the next time we have one of these shootings? The next Sandy Hook? After they've already infringed on the Second Amendment and banned all semi-automatic rifles, AK-47s, and magazine clips holding more than 10 rounds. What happens when the next crazed maniac on Prozac walks into a movie theater and murders a dozen people with a handgun or a shotgun? Then what? The government will say in order to save our children and prevent these atrocities in the future, we must get rid of all handguns and all weapons? Will the attack on the Second Amendment ever end? Or is the attack on the Second Amendment Obama's actual agenda? The Second Amendment clearly states that Americans have every right to form a well-regulated militia in order to defend themselves from a tyrannical and oppressive government. So how do Americans form a well-regulated militia without the same weapons, high-powered semi-automatic and automatic weapons that the military, the police, and the government possess? Are Americans supposed to defend themselves with handguns and shotguns while a tyrannical government is firing machine guns at the American people? How will they defend themselves from a potential foreign invasion from an aggressor nation? Most Americans today don't ask themselves these questions, and they trust their government implicitly. They actually think that the president and our elected officials have their best interest and protection at heart. History tells us otherwise, and depicts this as a fatal flaw in error and judgment. It's one of the reasons the Founding Fathers provided checks and balances to government through the U.S. Constitution and the Bill of Rights. It's why Americans have a Second Amendment. It's number 2 on the list. And Amendment number 1, the freedom of speech, is protected by number 2.
We're also looking into whether or not Lanza visited any local gun ranges, although there's no evidence that he trained for this attack or was active in any gun community.
The alleged story of Adam Lanza going into Dick's Sporting Goods to allegedly secure a weapon days prior. The employee Duff was shown 2 photographs, one of Ryan Lanza and one of Adam Lanza. The photographs did not contain any identifying information. Duff remarked that one photograph looked familiar, and this photograph was of Adam Lanza. Duff also indicated that within this group of males, only one was actually speaking to him, and it was not the 2 persons depicted in the picture, meaning it wasn't Adam or Ryan. 2 males enter the Lodge Gun Center, one in fatigues, one in a black coat.
How was he dressed? Camo pants with a dark jacket.
Then a man dressed in green and beige army clothes came into her classroom.
He stated that he was wearing a green army-style hat with straps, a green shirt and camouflage pants.
Censored said the shooter was dressed in army clothes.
When a man walked in, he was wearing a brown or camo shirt, brown pants, described the shooter as a white guy with a heavy winter-like brown jacket, and a green shirt underneath the jacket. Censored stated that he believed the man was wearing army green kind of pants.
Camo pants with a dark jacket.
Fatigue shows ID to associate, stays at the counter for a while, and it kind of just goes through the timeline on the video. Of course, you won't see the video. And it goes on to list retracted pictures. I don't know exactly what those pictures are showing, obviously, because they're redacted. But here we go ahead and see some very grainy pictures. I assume these 2 young men are supposed to be part of it. And it's a time frame of about a half an hour. We've got This guy and this guy here, same deal. They're walking out. This is the only one that can kind of look like Alonzo to me, but as you can see, once you go ahead and expand the photo, it just gets grainier. I try and zoom in on this one, and it's very grainy. I don't know. So the reason why I'm even bringing this up is because nobody bought anything, but remember Barbara Sibley's story that all 4 doors were open and of the car, and you know, we've got 4 guys that were allegedly with, 3 that were allegedly with Adam Lanza in this Dick's Sporting Goods store for well over a half an hour, and of course the store clerk fingers Adam Lanza as being with them, though there are no clear and concise pictures of that being true. Who are these other guys that are with them, and why is there no report on that?
They did walk a guy out of the woods. I saw him walk a guy earlier with handcuffs. And he walked by us and said he didn't do it. It was a grown man. Yeah, he's sitting in the front of the police car over there now. So I mean, he didn't have a gun. No, I just seen him. I just had him handcuffed, and he walked by us and looked into the parents' eyes and said I didn't do it. How was he dressed? Camo pants with a dark jacket.
I was asked by one of the first responders if I wanted to go in and give a blessing. And as I say, I looked in and I could see kind of the streams of blood that were coming from the corridor.
Monsignor Robert Weiss of Newtown St. Rose of Lima Catholic Church.
The only people who don't want to disclose the truth are people with something to hide.
What is the 2005 London subway bombing, the September 11th, 2001 terror attacks, and the December 14th, 2012 Sandy Hook massacre have in common? Well, what they have in common is that a version or versions of the Department of Homeland Security was either running drills in the exact same area at the exact same time, or they were conducting class courses.
Because at 9:30 this morning, we were actually running an exercise for over a company of 1,000 people in London, based on simultaneous bombs going off precisely at the railway stations that happened this morning. So I still have the hairs on the back of my neck standing upright.
To get this quite straight, you were running an exercise to see how you would cope with this, and it happened while you were running the exercise?
Precisely.
FEMA had arrived in New York on Monday night, ready for a bioterror drill. Spokesman Tom Kenny to Dan Rather.
To be honest with you, we arrived on late Monday night and went into action on Tuesday morning. And not until today did we get a full opportunity to work the entire site other than the spot at Church and Day to which we were deployed.
Now check this out. This is very eerie. On December 14th, 2012, both the Department of Homeland Security and FEMA were conducting a course entitled, and you can see it here, Planning for the Needs of Children in Disasters. You can see right here, this is from the state of Connecticut, the Department of Emergency Services and Public Protection, Emergency Management, and Homeland Security.
It only got worse.
They're reporting.
They arrived to carnage. The killer, says a law enforcement source with detailed knowledge.
You did see blood.
This is now appearing to be probably the worst schoolyard catastrophe in history.
But you can see right here, it was scheduled for December 14th, the very day of the Sandy Hook tragedy, from 9 a.m. to 4 p.m., the exact same time.
Holy clockwork!
When you click on this link right here, it takes you to this page. The goal of this course, it says, is to enable participants to improve their community's mitigation and emergency operations plan, specifically regarding the needs of children. The course will provide them with the information needed to address the unique needs of children prior to, during, and following disasters. Where was this class to meet? We'll take a look at this down here. Location, 2800 Main Street, Bridgeport, Connecticut. Now, where does that take you? This is Bridgeport, Connecticut. On the same day, at the same time the shootings occurred. The two locations were connected by the same road, a mere 20 minutes drive to the north.
This is in the state of Connecticut. The Department of Emergency Services and Public Protection, Emergency Management, and Homeland Security. The course will be held at the Shady Hook Fire Department address below, 18 Riverside Road, Sandy Hook Court.
And sign in when you arrive.
Do you remember seeing a traffic sign, electronic digital traffic sign that said everyone must sign in?
Check in.
Everyone must check in, thank you.
Yes.
And who put that sign there?
I'm not sure.
Isn't it a traffic sign? Wouldn't it have been directed by the police department to put that sign up?
No.
Was that a sign that was there on a daily basis?
I think I saw it several times.
Several other days?
Yes.
And to whom was it referring when it said everyone must sign in?
All visitors.
All visitors. Okay, so where is the log for that? Where is the sign-in log? Everyone must check in. Where would that be?
That would have been part of evidence that Connecticut State Police seized.
Okay. Did you ever see it yourself?
No.
So you don't know if it exists?
That's correct.
Okay.
And it goes on and on and on.
Who did order the porta potties?
Talking about porta potties now?
Yeah.
Now, yes, porta potties were certainly there at She's on December 14th.
We thank the emergency services who built us a temporary facility in the parking lot, and
it was this magnificent thing.
What is the value of a human being, of a child, of a victim of tragedy? What makes the value of one person worth more than the value of another? When is enough enough? Sandy Hook families have been compensated millions of dollars by the government. They have raised millions themselves through private charities and fundraisers. Others have donated tens of thousands of dollars, and yet, 2 years after the event, they are still asking for more. And they continue to receive more as well. What is it that makes them so different as to have become instant millionaires? If this event was real, do you think it is morally right to use the death of a family member in order to solicit annual goals of tens of thousands of dollars? Some families are even documented as having an annual goal of upwards of $500,000, and that's not counting government grants that they were awarded. Deaths occur every day in the United States, and just about every one of those families must deal with tragedy on their own, struggling to make ends meet. But we know Sandy Hook is different, much different. After seeing all of the anomalies, inconsistencies, and lies surrounding the official story, one can't help but think that all the charities, funds, federal grants, and donations are just part of a gigantic payoff scheme.
What you want, what you want. Come on. What you want, what you want. Come on. What you want. Come on. What you want.
The FBI database is supposed to track all homicides across the country, but not one of the 26 people killed at Sandy Hook Elementary School made the list. Also, none of the 12 people killed in a Colorado movie theater made the list.
Her students from a gunman spoke at Edmonton's Teachers Convention.
She taught at Sandy Hook Elementary when Adam Lanza opened fire and killed 26 people.
The teacher clearly recalls the day in December 2012. She remembers the gunfire.
You see how awful the media is? You see how awful the media is? I mean, it's the same, one and the same, whether it's Canada, United States, Europe, it don't matter. It's all fucking lies. They're using a clip here that is a fake clip. This is a clip that was taken from a different school. Many people have broken this down. This is definitely not the entrance to Sandy Hook, and yet they still are showing it because the people are still buying this hoax. It's absolutely absurd.
Just in time for the school year, the brand new Sandy Hook Elementary School is now complete.
The new Sandy Hook School is on the same land, but is not on the same footprint as the school where the tragedy occurred. It's hard to tell where the old school was, even for teachers that have visited here.
The new school building is 86,000 square feet. About 400 kids will fill those classrooms. The school was built with a calming nature theme in mind.
But it also has the latest state-of-the-art security, including bulletproof glass, electronic doors and door locks, cameras both visible and not visible,